breakfast puppies?
This podcast contains adult language and content and is meant for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Ruh-roh, Raggy, you're listening to the Glitterbois, right?
Hey folks, just Jacob back here with the Glitterbois, and today we're going to be talking about one of my least favorite OCCs.
Oh no. I'm sorry, folks. Tell us, what have we won, Jacob?
You have won the Techno-Wizard.
Oh, blasphemer.
So I'm gonna let NPC give a basic rundown of the Techno-Wizard, because if I go off on it and try to do it, one, I will not give it due justice. Two, my thoughts on the matter will obscure the basic technical rundown on the class. And I know NPC has not necessarily a soft spot, but at least a warm spot in his heart for the Techno-Wizard.
Okay.
As opposed to the cold, dark cell I wish to sentence it to.
Well, let it be known that I am not a lover of this class. However, I feel that it holds a good, strong spot in the lineup of iconic Rifts OCCs. The Techno-Wizard is a wizard who casts all their magic through technology. What they do is instead of casting a spell directly, they work in advance to build cool little devices. They enchant those devices with their spells, and then later they recast spells through it for a reduced PPE cost. They take various spells and combine them into other things. It's, and that's about it.
So they're an enchanter and an artificer. Got it.
Kind of. They are essentially, so Palladium, back in the day, at the very beginning of the Palladium fantasy role-playing game, was noteworthy for introducing a pair of character classes, magicians, who had no overt immediate power, but great long-term potential. Those would be the Summoner and the Diabolist. They could not cast spells directly, but they could create cool shit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is the Techno-Wizard. They are the same thing. They can cast spells. They can.
Mm-hmm.
Any spell that they know that they can cast at significantly reduced ability. But their specialty is saving those spells for later in creative ways.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you hate fun, Jacob?
Well, I hate fun because, it's fun and therefore should be extinguished from the world. There shall be only suffering.
Mm-hmm.
So there are two reasons I dislike. Detest is too strong. Detest would mean that I give them more time of day than I actually do.
Mm-hmm.
I dislike them for two reasons. One is how they are handled within the world of Rifts.
Okay.
Frequently, you see techno-wizards and techno-wizardry functionally turning out things at an almost industrialized scale, which runs against the entire artisanal conceit of the class.
Okay.
And that one drives me crazy.
I will say this, that you're right. However, we're getting dangerously close to one of the things that I personally, I don't expect anybody else to adhere to this rule, but I personally have on my list of things not to complain about in the Rift world.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the industrial logistical situation of anything. Because if you start to think too hard about it,
yep,
none of it makes any sense.
Yep.
And you might as well stop playing.
Yep. And as just for all of your listening, NPC has had to pull me back from the edge on this one more than once, because as someone who, that's how their brain works. But yeah, the proliferation of techno-wizardry in the world is one of the issues I have with it. There are others. I sometimes feel that the feel of techno-wizardry has less of a coherent feel than some of the other magical classes. It seems a little bit more haphazard.
Okay.
And those are my smaller gripes.
Okay.
My larger gripes with Techno-Wizards do not in any way, shape, relate to how they are presented on the page.
Okay.
They are more a side effect of how I always see them played.
Oh, tell me. Do explain.
When someone says they're playing a Techno-Wizard at a gaming table, I'm like, I literally can go, so which are you? The Green Goblin, or do you just smoke a lot of pot?
Okay. No, you are totally. Yeah. Yep.
I can count on one hand the number of Techno-Wizards that don't fall into one of those two tropes.
You know, what's funny is that I think we're thinking of the same person. And his Techno-Wizard was one of my favorite portrayals of Techno-Wizard of all time.
Yes, you and I are. Well, I'm thinking about more than just him. He's the one who he did that trope best.
Yeah.
As overused as that trope is, the whole magic Scooby-Doo van shtick. I didn't. I won't say I liked it, but he leaned into it hard enough that he could sell it.
Yeah. So to explain what we're talking about, when Jacob and I started gaming together, we had known each other for a while, but when we finally started actually gaming at the same table, it was through a Savage Rifts game, I believe.
Yeah.
And one of the players playing a Techno-Wizard's name was Garth. And
Party on Garth.
This player had no prior experience with Rifts.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to not correct him on certain things. And I think it made it better. Those things being, so Techno-Wizards can create cool items. The premise in general is you take an existing item, strip out all of its technology, replace all of that with magic, which largely does the same thing. Limitation being that you can't make a thing do something that it wasn't designed to do, or the magic only works if it's done in a way that makes sense to the item. Well, I think that's bullshit. I think that you should be able to channel any kind of magic through any kind of device, provided that you can come up with a way for that to work. Or it fits a metaphorical theme, right? Well, that ended up when Garth's player was talking about all of these things that he wanted to do, and he wanted to have a TW flyer or a TK flyer or whatever. It's like they have flying cars and they have flying magic. So can't I just make a car fly with magic? And it's like, okay, why not? So he ended up with a 70s van with a wizard painted on the side that flew. It was fucking wonderful. It was all laid out, decked out with shag carpet and full of all its weird devices. But I think my favorite one, a van cannot fly according to the normal Techno-Wizard rules, but a van should be able to fly because that's awesome.
Yes.
So
rule of cool.
My favorite item, though, was he created a healing device. His Techno-Wizard healing device wasn't like, as the rules declare, wasn't some normal, it wasn't like a first aid kit, or it wasn't a defibrillator or something. It was a fucking teddy bear. And you hugged that teddy bear, and then it healed you. And that, brilliant.
Yeah, and it worked for me enough because of the bend all the way into ludicrous, where there was the conceptual rationalization there still and all of that. But like the trope of the pothead Techno-Wizard is so entrenched in Rifts that I am like, oh.
Yeah, he took a page from Good Omens, and his van had an 8-track of Jerry Garcia. No. It was an 8-track that was permanently stuck, and he couldn't turn it off, and he couldn't even turn it down or up. It was just loud ass music constantly playing. And we, as a group, collectively built the soundtrack for that 8-track.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. That was. But yeah. Techno-Wizards. I mean, it does what it says on the tin. Magic via technology. It's a trope that's been done in other games. Most of them post Rifts, I do believe. I actually did some digging to get details on this. It's come up before, but this was the first time it ever appeared as part of a base game. And as far as I could dig out,
Combining the twin magics, the twin technologies.
Yep.
Yeah. Dr. Articulus.
Yes.
Jacob, you're making the baby Dr. Articulus cry. You know this, right?
Yes, I know. And I'm fine because Dr. Articulus was wrong. Yeah, no, I just don't like it. It feels weird and wrong and requires so much bookkeeping. And like, as a player who's not opposed to bookkeeping, like the one who keeps accounting spreadsheets for parties and stuff, I'm not inherently opposed to it. But it really puts a lot of bookkeeping on both the player and to a certain extent the game master.
Well, you're not wrong. There are hassles with the Techno-Wizard magic item creation system. The one that is in the original Rifts book, it's serviceable. It works. It's very, very, very bare bones. The Rifter magazines would add more and more different options. And then, of course, Rifts Ultimate Edition comes out. And Kevin tapped his good friend Carmen and I think Sean, who did the original, I believe Sean Therian did the Rifter article. I want to say the Rifter articles, but they got, combined all that stuff together and made something new. And it's pretty detailed. It is the opposite of the system from the first book. Yep. And that it gets down and dirty. That said, it works. It definitely works. I actually went through 2 weeks ago when I was rereading this in preparation. I went through and started up some items, and it's an arduous process the first couple times. But if you're playing a Techno-Wizard,
build yourself a spreadsheet.
But I feel that if you're playing a Techno-Wizard, you're probably the kind of person who's into this.
Or you smoke a lot of pot.
In which you're probably kind of the person who's into this. I mean, I don't know, like engineers and pot kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah, that's true.
There was a Dungeons and Dragons 3rd edition D20 era campaign setting called Iron Kingdoms.
Oh, yes. Iron Kingdoms. One of your and my favorites.
I've got all of the D20 era stuff, even though I never really liked D20. By the time I got it, I was done with D20, but the setting was so good, I had to keep getting it. It's got a really interesting magic item creation system because essentially they have Techno-Wizards. They call them, they're mechanists. They use Mechanica, but it's the same goddamn thing.
Yes.
And for any players or game masters who are interested in another take on how to do the same goddamn thing, if you can get a hold of the original Iron Kingdoms character guide from the D20 era, check that out. I cannot recommend anything that has come out since. The Iron Kingdoms tabletop game based on the minis game was just no good, in my opinion. And the 5th edition stuff was so bad. It was so bad.
I'll go along with you on the 5th edition stuff as someone who rather enjoyed the tabletop game.
I mean, the tabletop game was great if you wanted a minis game with a skill system tacked on.
Yeah.
I didn't want that. I wanted the opposite of that, which was funny because I was an active poster on the Iron Kingdom and the Privateer Press forums for years about Iron Kingdoms. And I was constantly like, let's convert the skill system to the War Machine battle system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We need to convert them. If we've got all of these War Machine minis, you've got a perfectly functional minis combat system already right here. Let's do that. Just do that, but take everything else and convert it. But they did half of that.
At some point, we should revisit. You and I on other podcasts have had conversations about our love for Iron Kingdom / War Machine. I think sometime as a future topic, we should sit down and talk about Palladiuming Iron Kingdom / War Machine. As an episode topic. It's one I've been thinking about for a while, and obviously, now that we brought it up, we should talk about it in the future.
Mm-hmm.
You're 100% right. Pulling us back on topic before we go down the tangent hole.
No!
Hey, sometimes you got to be the strong one. Sometimes I got to be the strong one, and I want to quit talking about these goddamn Techno-Wizards sooner rather than later.
Hey, this was a heavily requested topic.
I know. People want their fan service. Y'all love the Techno-Wizard for reasons I cannot fathom.
Well, I think it's got a few things. One, magic and technology is, at least when Rifts came out, combining them was unique.
Mm-hmm.
It was more or less a brand new thing. But these Kevin Long pictures, the Kevin Long, the fellow with his shirt pulled open with all of the TK flyers behind him, gives you that kind of World War II era nickel movie. The news from the front kind of thing. Whereas then you go a few pages over and you see the second long piece of that guy on the TK flyer. They are so burned into every Rifts player's brain.
And having talked to newer Rifts players who came to the game after Ultimate Edition, which, while I did see the trope of the Green Goblin Techno-Wizard before then, that page art on page 127. Oh my God! You opened the doors for those.
Michael Dubish. It's not bad art.
Nope.
But it's some Green Goblin shit.
Yeah,
this is a straight up.
Yep.
That's the Green fucking Goblin. And that's why I was laughing. I was laughing because you're not wrong.
Yep.
You are not wrong. Those are the two stereotypes of Techno-Wizards.
Now, I will pull back because I don't want to be taken out of context that those are the only two types of Techno-Wizards I've ever seen. I've seen other occasional flashes of brilliance.
Mm-hmm.
I once saw someone who was basically playing a tech bro with a hoverboard as a Techno-Wizard. Who was trying to do it. Literally, his entire gig was trying to do a startup.
I dig.
The thing is that I just never really, as much as I love the combination of magic and technology, I've built games around the premise.
Mm-hmm. I
have played lots of games around the premise. For the, I nearly said After the Bomb, but Deadlands Wasted West. They have their spin on the Techno-Wizard that I quite enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
There's other ones out there that I like as well. I cannot fully describe why this one bounces off me so hard as it does. And I think it's that weird within the game culture, the what the players and GMs bring to the table element, as well as the something about it just always feels half-baked. And I struggle to put into words why, and I've been trying to for a while. And when we originally talked several months ago about putting this, I took a couple stabs at writing out my thoughts on this, and the biggest I could come up with is it does require a lot of bookkeeping.
Mm-hmm. It does.
It is awkward as hell in many ways. It's one of the things it's an OCC that often is attractive to new players, but is very demanding on a new player.
Yeah.
And that can be a problem. It There seems to be a little bit, although with the new creation rules, this has improved. There seemed to be a little bit of a lack of a coherent framework for how techno-wizardry kind of worked.
Yeah.
Like there was a lack of underlying assumptives, other than it should do basically what the techno item it's based off of does.
And that is true. That ties into something that I've noticed a lot, and with many aspects of the Palladium system. Somebody was talking on our forum, on our Discord, about the differences between making a character versus checking, seeing how are the NPCs made. And NPCs are not made with player character rules.
Mm-hmm.
They're given the stats that they need,
right?
And maybe a few example character classes that could have gotten to that, but largely NPCs are not made according to player character creation and leveling up rules.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same with items that you find in the world. The stat blocks, the gear lists in any Palladium book, I can guarantee you those Techno-Wizard items weren't made through the process. Somebody drew a picture, somebody gave it some stats and said, these spells, that's what makes it happen, and gave it some numbers and called it good.
And more than often, and there's many on the page versions of what we were just talking about with that player we originally gamed with, where even in printed material, sometimes the rule of the effect follows the base effect of the item is deviated from in some cases. Yep.
But at the same time, so is all technology. If Palladium were to come out with a die-hard core, statted out system for fully creating your own technological, non-magical technological devices from scratch with rules and all of that stuff to lay out, I would never expect any of the listed equipment to follow those rules.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would make sense.
So it's the same. If I find a Techno-Wizard item in a book, I do not expect that item to have been made with the TW rules.
Yeah.
And that goes back, however, to what you were saying about the industrialization of techno-wizardry. I don't hate that. I see it as the natural progression, because Rifts isn't post-apocalyptic.
No,
Rifts is post-apocalyptic. The apocalypse happened some time ago, and the world has begun to recover. So I would say that perhaps in the single-digit years of PA, maybe more techno-wizards were that garage industry. But now in one of whatever PA, you have techno-wizard industrial shops. Like they may not be 100% minted in exact format, but you have the infrastructure in certain places, like the Colorado Baronies, which are heavily run by techno-wizards and have techno-wizard infrastructure. But they also have a shitload of ley lines there to make that infrastructure possible.
So let's talk about one of the things I like about Techno-Wizards.
Okay.
There's 3, and this is one of them.
All right.
We don't need to get into the other 2.
Oh, no, we're going
to. The one thing I really like about Techno-Wizards is that they can leverage ley lines in a unique and very setting appropriate way. The very concept that you could have a town where all of your streetlights might have been made artisanally, but are hooked to what amounts to a power grid run off the ley line, feels so perfect.
Yeah.
And I like it. And that has that sweet spot of like, techno-wizardry is still artisanal. It takes a craftsman to make the actual item, but you can have this pseudo-industrialized process that creates a community-wide, non-individualized effect. And I love that. And there's a couple other examples out there that I remember in, I can't remember what book, but basically you're cruising through a small town. It's a very small hook, and there's a mention that the local mill is run by techno-wizardry. And so it's the mill for all the farming areas in the area, and the mill just happens to the guy hired a Techno-Wizard when the river dried up to to make the mill wheel run off of Techno-Wizardry. I love little bits like that. That hits a sweet spot for me.
A way that you can mitigate the samey feel of industrialized Techno-Wizardry is to simply have each and every device follow something similar to, but maybe not as drastic as, the mercurial magic tables from Dungeon Crawl Classics. By the nature of them being magical, you could assert that they should not all function the same, because magic is mercurial. Magic itself, there may be sciences of working with it, but the end result, as evidenced by the creation rules themselves, is not always going to be the same. Therefore, you could have an array of identical TW laser rifles, but each one functions slightly differently, to the point that some could even have a personality when they happen, or others, have weird side effects that happen every time you fire them.
And that is the second thing I like about Techno-Wizardry. If you are not just troping out your Techno-Wizard character, a la Green Goblin pothead, I'm going to hold that against you people forever. Because it's fucking annoying. The ability to give personality to equipment based on the Techno-Wizard who built it. Like, you could have a Techno-Wizard rifle, a TK rifle, designed by two wizards that functionally do the same thing, but structurally are very different. One of them's got a filigreed silver carrier rail on top that has weird-ass crystals, and the other one basically has a slide rack on the side that has a bunch of wired-up old radio tubes. And that ability to personalize things and tell something about the character and their approach to Techno-Wizardry is something I love as a potential. And it's also one of the reasons why the Techno-Wizard, even though you and I played with, was less offensive to me, and one I actually liked, was the persona of his Techno-Wizard items were within theme of his character.
Yeah.
The teddy bear, I would describe it as he was the cozy Techno-Wizard in so many ways. And I like that element of it.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, he made one of his other items was one of those little cymbal clapping monkeys.
Yep.
And it had like a fear and a thunderclap effect. So it went boom, boom, boom. It was like, yeah.
The ability to do that sort of personalization, I appreciate, as long as you don't take too much time away from the game table to delve into it.
Yeah.
But it's a great potential outlet for certain types of players.
And you just bring up a really good point. If, dear players, you want to play a Techno-Wizard and you really want to get hands-on with that creation stuff, you are best advised to approach it like we used to approach it in middle school, which is to not design your shit at the table.
Right.
Do it in your downtime. Do it when you're supposed to be listening in class. Do it instead of your homework, because homework is stupid. Do it at any time when you are not at the table so that your actions don't take away from game time, because it's a long ass process.
And annoy your game master with a series of text messages going on for goddamn hours between games.
I welcome it. Yeah.
No, I've been the GM there, and when it's one of those things where it's like when people hit their groove with Techno-Wizardry and are trying to figure it out and do creative builds and stuff, you're watching someone, their mind just kind of pop open, and they're trying to explore possibilities. And it can be fun, and it can also be like, rails. Let's move it back towards the rails a little bit.
Yeah. I don't have anything else to say.
That's it. I'm not a huge fan of Techno-Wizards. Part of it is the rules. Part of it is the culture that has grown up in the player community around them. But yeah, that said, the one thing you will never hear me say is that they don't belong in Rifts. I will happily concede that they have a place. I just think that we got to be a little bit more thoughtful and creative with them.
Yeah, agreed. I think that about every class, though. I think you need to be creative with what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Even if it's something as I am guy with gun.
Yeah.
Be creative with it.
I mean, you didn't have me on the Cyborg episode, so you didn't get to hear that one.
Yeah. The Kevin Long Red Cyborg piece is pretty cool, but dear players, you can play something else. Okay. Yeah, I think that's it.
So have a good one, folks. Come on over to the Discord. Drop in, say hello. Give us your take on why I'm dead wrong and a horrible person for my Techno-Wizard hate. I will see you on the battlefield of rational and citation-based discourse.
And because people have been asking, if anybody wants to kick us a few bucks to help pay our bills, we have a coffee site that's ko-fi.com/Glitterbois, BOIS. If you want to kick us a few bucks, that's the best way to do it. You can either do a one-time thing or you can have a recurring subscription if you like, just like Patreon. But unlike Patreon, coffee gives better rewards to the people who run the project. We get a greater percentage of things, which is why I highly recommend coffee.com to all creators of such things. We also have a merch store on Redbubble. And if neither of those fit your needs, you can just kick us a little bit of money directly through Pinecast, our audio host.
Yep, you covered the points.
Cool. Great. And again, as Jacob said, drop by our Discord and say hello. We love to have more people join. Just so you know, we have to personally approve everybody because we want humans who want to talk to us. That's about it. Yeah.
I am happy to say we have never once suddenly had someone report that someone contacted them by DMs from shared server asking if you were in need of artist commissions.
I literally, as we started recording this, got a Discord direct friend request from someone on another Discord server who was 100% obviously a robot. We don't want that.
We don't want that.
Thanks for listening, folks. We'll catch you next time.
Talk to you later.
Starships, magic, mystic martial arts, romance. All of these can be found in A Cloak of Blades by Isaac Scher. You might have heard my name before. I've done a lot of voiceover work for Breakfast Puppies, and I've recently released my first novel. It's available on Amazon as an ebook and paperback, and you can get it for free if you have a Kindle Unlimited subscription. I do hope you'll support my work as you're supporting Breakfast Puppies, and it's been a pleasure talking with you today. Have a good one.
You've been listening to The Glitterbois, a Palladium Books fan podcast. Glitterbois, Rifts, the Megaverse, and all other such topics are the property of Kevin Siembieda and Palladium Books. Please buy all their stuff and help keep them in print and making more games. You can order directly at palladiumbooks.com, and their entire catalog is available digitally at Drive-Thru RPG as well. Our opening music is 8-Bit Bass and Lead by Furby Guy from freesound.org. This closing music is Caravana by Philip Gross, available at freemusicarchive.org. All sound effects used are self-made or acquired via Creative Commons Zero license. If you like what you have heard, find us on Twitter and Facebook as The Glitterbois. That's BOIS. And check us out online at breakfastpuppies.com/glitterbois. And also join us on the Breakfast Puppies Network Discord at breakfastpuppies.com/discord. And if you want to help us out, please spread the word and help us build a community. Thanks again for listening. We'll catch you next time.